You do something you rarely talk about. You argue with people who are not in the room. You replay conversations in the shower. You defend yourself while driving. You imagine confrontations while trying to sleep. You build entire dialogues in your head. You say the perfect thing. You correct them clearly. You finally explain yourself the way you wish you had, and in your imagination you win. But in real life, nothing actually happened. Or maybe something small did. A comment, a tone, a look. Not dramatic, just enough. And hours later, it is still running in your mind. Why? Why does your brain keep rehearsing arguments that may never happen? And more importantly, why does it feel necessary? Let's slow this down. Think about the last time you did this. Maybe someone made a subtle remark that felt slightly dismissive. Maybe they interrupted you. Maybe they joked about something sensitive. Maybe they compared you to someone else. You did not explode. You did not confront them. You smiled. You nodded. You let it go. But later, it did not let you go. Your brain replayed it. You imagined responding differently. You imagined standing up for yourself. You imagined being sharper, calmer, stronger. Your heart even reacted. A slight tension in your chest, a tightening in your jaw, a rise in your pulse, even though you were alone. That reaction tells us something important. This is not random thinking. This is a stress response. Your brain is not bored. It is alert. Here is what most people misunderstand. Your brain treats social threat almost like physical threat. Rejection activates similar neural circuits as physical pain. Embarrassment lights up stress pathways. Being dismissed signals potential loss of belonging. And belonging, historically, meant survival. So when someone says something that feels slightly invalidating, your amygdala activates. The amygdala is your threat detector. It scans constantly for danger. It does not wait for extreme events. It reacts to subtle cues, tone changes, facial expressions, power shifts in conversation. If something feels unresolved, the amygdala flags it. Now here is where the rehearsal begins. Once the amygdala detects social threat, your prefrontal cortex tries to solve it. The prefrontal cortex is your planning center. It simulates, it predicts, it prepares. So your brain runs mental scenarios. Next time I will say this. If they say that, I will respond like this. I will not freeze again. This feels productive. It feels like growth. It feels like preparation. But what it is actually doing is reducing uncertainty. Your brain hates unresolved tension. Rehearsal creates the illusion of control. Control reduces anxiety, so your mind keeps doing it, over and over. But here is the hidden cost. The brain does not fully distinguish between vividly imagined social conflict and real social conflict. When you imagine confrontation in detail, your body reacts. Cortisol rises slightly, muscles tighten, breathing shifts. You are practicing stress in your own head. Now imagine doing this daily. Small social triggers to rehearsal to body activation to temporary relief to reinforcement. This becomes a loop. Trigger, simulate, feel prepared, calm slightly. Repeat next time. This is not drama, it is conditioning. And usually this pattern does not start in adulthood. It often begins earlier. In environments where you had to defend yourself often, you were corrected sharply, your feelings were minimized, you were the mature one too early. You learned that words could hurt deeply. If at some point you felt caught off guard and powerless, your brain recorded that memory. And the brain does not forget emotional powerlessness easily. It says, next time we will be ready. So it trains. Constantly. It trains through rehearsal, even when there is no scheduled battle. Here is a metaphor. Imagine your brain installed a fire alarm after one intense fire. Now, every time someone lights a candle, it runs a full emergency drill. Not because there is a fire, but because it remembers one. Your rehearsal habit is a fire drill. Your nervous system is preparing for social flames that may never ignite. And the more you rehearse, the more your brain assumes confrontation is common. So your baseline anxiety increases slightly. You might even say, "I am just someone who overthinks." But this is not just thinking. It is anticipatory defense, and defense is exhausting. There is another layer here. Rehearsal is often tied to identity. You want to be seen as competent, as articulate, as strong. When you freeze or stay silent in a moment that mattered, it threatens that identity. So your brain tries to repair the image afterward. It rewrites the scene. In your mind, you restore your dignity. That feels relieving. But it does not change reality. So the urge returns next time. Now here is the important shift. Rehearsing arguments is not aggression. It is unfinished safety. It is your brain trying to complete something that felt unresolved. And when you understand that, the shame softens. You are not dramatic. You are protective, but protection can become overprotection. So how do you gently rewire this? Not by suppressing it. Suppression increases stress. Instead, we shift your relationship to it. First, awareness in real time. The next time you catch yourself mid-argument in your head, pause. Do not continue the script. Do not judge it. Simply say internally, "I am rehearsing protection." Labeling changes brain activation. When you name a pattern, you activate higher cognitive control regions. That reduces amygdala intensity. You move from being inside the rehearsal to observing it. That small gap matters. Second, clarify the real fear. Ask yourself, what exactly am I protecting against? Humiliation? Rejection? Being seen as weak? Losing status? Be specific. When fears stay vague, they stay powerful. When you define them, they shrink. Often you will realize the fear is not about this person. It is about an old memory echoing forward. Third, shift from script to values. Instead of rehearsing exact sentences, ask, if conflict happens, who do I want to be? Calm, direct, honest, boundaried? When you anchor to identity rather than perfect wording, pressure decreases. You do not need a flawless line. You need grounded presence. Fourth, regulate the body. Long, slow exhale breathing directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system. When your body calms, your brain interprets safety. Without body activation, rehearsal loses intensity. If you interrupt the stress chemistry, the loop weakens. Fifth, allow imperfection publicly. Tell yourself, if I freeze, I can respond later. You are allowed to say, I need to think about that. That sentence alone dismantles urgency, because much of rehearsal is about avoiding freezing again. But freezing is human, and recovery is possible. The goal is not to eliminate rehearsal overnight, it is to reduce its emotional charge. Here is a simple mental model. Rehearsal is your brain's attempt to time travel. It goes into the future to prevent pain, but time travel drains energy. Presence restores it. Most of the arguments you rehearse will never occur, and if one does, it will not follow your script. Life rarely does. But here is something powerful. People who rehearse often have strong emotional intelligence. You think deeply. You analyze nuance. You care about communication. That is not weakness. It is sensitivity. But sensitivity without boundaries becomes self-stress. You do not need to stop caring. You need to stop preparing for imaginary courtrooms. Imagine how much mental space you would regain if you stopped arguing with ghosts. How much energy would return? How much calm would increase? The next time your mind starts building a debate, notice the first few lines. That is your entry point. That is where awareness interrupts habit. Pause there. Breathe out slowly. Remind yourself, I can handle real conflict if it comes. Because you can. You have grown since the moment that first taught you to rehearse. You have more language now, more stability, more self-awareness. You are not that younger version trying to survive emotionally sharp environments. You are here, Now, most imagined battles dissolve under present attention. And if one day someone truly challenges you, you will not need a rehearsed speech. You will respond from who you are, not from fear. Rehearsal feels like strength, but trust is stronger. Trust in your ability to think in real time. Trust in your ability to tolerate discomfort. Trust in your ability to recover if you stumble. That is real security. The goal is not to win imaginary arguments. It is to feel safe without them. The next time you find yourself mid-rehearsal, do not criticize it. Smile slightly, notice the pattern, then gently return to what is actually happening around you. Most threats live only in prediction, and most of your power lives only in the present. You do not need to prepare for battles that have not arrived. You need to feel safe enough to face life without a script, and that safety grows every time you choose awareness over rehearsal.